this, right? There's data showing that Twitter has actually complied more with foreign government takedown requests on Musk's watch than on Jack Dorsey's watch. As for the comparison, the boots on the other foot, you'd have to point to me where Kamala Harris threatened the media when she was running for president. You'd have to point to me where Joe Biden was suing CBS News as Donald Trump is doing right now.
But, when it comes to threatening the media...
You're a journalist. You do not support... Do you support Donald Trump suing CBS? No.
Let me answer.
Hold on. You gave a very long question. I want to finish my answer.
Can I answer on my own show?
No, I'm answering your question first.
I can't answer.
Well, no, because you asked the question.
Elon Musk, Islamophobia, grooming gangs, and a scandal that's shaking the UK. This video dives headfirst into one of the most heated and divisive discussions out there right now. From the world's richest man amplifying controversial narratives to accusations of cover-ups and political agendas, this clip has everything to spark debate.
I'm answering it.
You just asked me a question.
Piers, let me answer, then you can come back. No, I didn't finish my point. My point is Joe Biden is not suing CBS News. Joe Biden is suing CBS News. Do you support that?
Who was in recent times...
Sorry, Donald Trump.
Hang on.
Donald Trump is suing CBS News.
I'm answering
Joe
your
Biden
question.
isn't.
If you let me, I'll answer your question. Which president of modern times was the biggest and most draconian threat in terms of his actions to journalists in America? Do you know? Barack Obama.
You're going to say Barack Obama?
Yes, because I'm right.
I think Barack Obama was bad on those issues.
He was the worst, by
I think Donald Trump was worse, but I think Barack Obama was right.
You know why Trump's suing
Donald
people?
Trump right now...
Trump's suing people because, actually, people like George Stephanopoulos lied about him. They exaggerated what he'd been found guilty of. And guess what? When you lie...
You and I both know ABC... You and I both know ABC would have won in court.
ABC didn't go to court. They gave him $15 million. Now, you might say...
Why do you think that is, Piers?
Because
of
they
the
knew they
legal
were going to
arguments?
lose.
Or because they're sucking up to an authoritarian?
Or because they knew they were going to lose.
Bullshit. No legal expert agrees with you on that. Piers, legal experts don't agree with you on that, actually. Most lawyers don't agree with you on that. You're wrong.
Mehdi, you'll never agree with me
about
things
opposite.
like that.
It's because they're scared. It's because everyone's bending the knee.
Your agenda
to
accept what may have been a simple case. George Stephanopoulos lied about him.
Do you support Donald Trump suing a pollster because he doesn't like a poll result?
I think Donald Trump...
This is insane, Piers. I thought you were a free speech champion. But now you're rolling over for Trump as well.
Donald Trump can sue who he likes.
Do you support it, is my question. Do you support a president of the United States suing media organizations he doesn't like?
Do you
support that, do you? Free speech champion Piers Morgan.
Do you believe he has a right to?
So you're rolling over like Mark Zuckerberg as well.
Wow, do you believe he has a right to sue people?
For Donald Trump.
Does he have a right to sue people?
Of course he has a right to. But is he right to?
Okay, then we're agreed.
Is he right to? Is the question you're dodging?
Then we're agreed.
No, no, we're not agreed. Do you support his lawsuit? Yes or no?
Doesn't matter.
Wrong? It's a very simple question.
Doesn't matter.
Oh, you're too scared to answer. Got it.
No, Donald Trump sues people all the time.
Do you think he's right to sue the pollster? And do you agree with it? You have strong views, Piers, but you're not telling me today.
Let's get to your strong. Let's get to
you're like Mark Zuckerberg.
Let's get to your
Trump.
strong views, Mehdi.
Oh yeah, let's change the subject.
No,
so I don't have
think
to
you've forgotten whose show
it is. It's a simple question. Do you support Donald Trump's lawsuit?
It's not your show.
Do you support Donald Trump's lawsuit?
It's not your
against
show.
The pollster?
I'm asking you the questions.
All right. Well, everyone can see that you don't want to answer the question.
They can. They can see that I want to ask you questions, not have you pepper me with questions. Now, let me ask you a question. This gang rape scandal in the UK is horrific, has always been horrific. I think it was despicable in terms of the details. I think it was despicable it took so long for it all to get properly exposed. I still don't think it has been. I think it was utterly despicable that the scale of the cover-up, whether it was the police, whether it was council officials, whether it was social workers, everyone whose job it was to protect these young girls failed them spectacularly. I think on that we're probably completely in agreement.
Yes.
The issue that is raging now is whether there should be a new national inquiry and whether someone like Elon Musk, in his very blunt, often very abusive manner, as we've seen with the rhetoric he's used against Keir Starmer and Jess Phillips and others,
dishonest,
which I don't agree with, the way he's phrased himself with some of these, particularly Jess Phillips after the murder of 2 MPs in the UK. So I think, again, we'd agree on that. But I've also taken the sort of back step and gone, actually, I do think there should be another national inquiry. I do think the first one, they didn't act on any of the findings anyway, but actually the first one was very wide-ranging. And actually what it needs, it seems to me, from all I've read and seen this week, it needs a more specific national inquiry that focuses specifically on this northern rape gang scandal in all the 50 towns and villages that was happening. So we can actually get to the bottom of exactly who got abused and raped, who did it, what happened to them, have the perpetrators properly been brought to account, have the ones who were here on, maybe dual passports being deported, whatever.
As the conversation deepens, the stakes become even higher. When influential figures like Elon Musk amplify these issues, it forces us to confront uncomfortable realities, but it also raises questions about their motives and methods. Is this about justice and transparency, or is it another layer of division in an already fractured society? The answer might not be simple, but understanding the bigger picture is more important than ever.
It may be. In other words, proper accountability right from bottom to the top. And potentially people going to prison over this are not just the perpetrators of the rape, but perpetrators of the cover-up. Now, A, do you agree with that? And B, Elon Musk pushing this, is that actually a big problem, notwithstanding you and I agree about the rhetoric being wrong?
So, okay, two questions. Let me deal with both of them. On number one, I'm glad you asked that question. It's the first time I've been on your show, and we actually don't have to argue along left-right lines, where I'm the lefty and you pretend not to be a right-winger. This isn't a left-right issue. It's actually an issue of what do you think is the right way forward, right? This is a horrific scandal. What happened to children in the UK is disgusting. It is one of the great crimes of our time, no doubt about that. And I can't even read the details. It's sickening, horrific, it's disgusting. Yeah. And by the way, you know, this happened. A lot of this, it's ongoing, obviously. It's an ongoing problem in every country. But, you know, the real scandals happened 10, 15 years ago, and that's what's tragic that we're talking about it now. But I would say to you, look, on the national inquiry point, I don't know. It's not a left-right issue. So I did sit down this week to kind of get my thoughts together. What do I think about this? I'm not an expert on this stuff, nor are you. So kind of I look to what the experts are saying, and two people I respect very much in this field. One is Professor Alexis Jay, who ran the independent inquiry on child sexual abuse. It was a 7-year investigation from 2015 to 2022, cost over £100 million. I think it was 468 pages long. I haven't been able to read all of it, but I read the 20 recommendations she made, Piers, and I think it's a scandal that the Conservative government, people like Liz Truss, and Suella Braverman and Robert Jenrick, who are jumping on this far-right bandwagon, to quote Keir Starmer, outrageously did nothing, Piers.
Well, he's actually reined back, to be fair, he's actually reined back on that phrase today in Parliament, in PMQs, and he's said he understands
it. Good for him.
He basically has made it clear you're not necessarily far-right if you think there should be a national inquiry, which I'm glad he's done.
No, of course not, and that wasn't the point.
I'm not far-right,
that wasn't
and I think
the point.
There should be.
It's not, no. No, but that wasn't the point. His words were misconstrued. I heard his words. He was making very clear that Conservative politicians who are using this for political gain are jumping on a far-right back. That's a separate point. Obviously, calling for an inquiry is not far-right. As I just said to you, I was about to call for an inquiry till I did some reading and said, here's what Alexis Jay says. She says, I did this report, 460
But there's a big problem with that report.
Recommendations. The Conservative...
Yeah, but you mentioned, but Mehdi, you mentioned how many... Okay, but look, you mentioned how many pages are in the report. Do you know how many times Rotherham got mentioned?
Yeah. No, but she did a separate report on Rotherham as well.
No, but do you know how many times it got mentioned in the national report?
But she did a report on Rotherham. No. Because she did a specific... You know there's an independent report on Rotherham as well.
I'm talking about the national report. Do you know how many times it got mentioned, Rotherham?
No.
Once. So the absolute...
She also did a separate 185 pages. My point, she also did a separate...
No, my point, though, is that the epicentre of this scandal was Rotherham, and yet it merited one mention in her national report. And that's the point that people are making, which is actually that national report was so wide-ranging, taking in all sorts of different kinds of abuse, that it couldn't properly focus on this actual specific scandal of predominantly British Pakistani men abusing young white girls. That's the scandal that needs a proper laser-like focus, I think.
Well, okay, and that's fair enough. I think that we can debate about the Pakistani man angle. There's a big debate about the ethnicity factor, as you know. But just one last point on the Alexis Jay report.
The vast majority were British Pakistani.
Can I finish a sentence?
Well, they were.
That's not true. In those specific towns, yes, but as a phenomenon in the UK.
What do you mean it's not true?
As a national phenomenon, the Home Office... Can I finish a sentence, Piers, or are we going to get through this interview?
Sure.
Every time I start a sentence, you interrupt me.
Go on.
The Home Office, under a Conservative government in 2020, put out a report, not sure if you've seen it, got a lot of coverage, saying that the majority of men in grooming gangs, which is not a great phrase, are white men under the age of 30. That was the survey data that they found. They said, we need more research. It's not a hard and fast result. We don't have enough ethnicity data. Do you know a lot of police forces, Piers, 30, 40, 50% of victims and perpetrators, they just don't register the ethnicity.
How many white
That's
men?
Not to say
how many
that
white
specific
men?
Gangs,
okay. How many white
That's
men?
not to say specific gangs in Rotherham and Rochdale and Telford were brown.
Okay. So let's just focus
But Piers, here's what bothers me. And you asked me about Elon Musk.
Sorry,
I didn't get a chance to get to that because you cut me off.
No, I'm allowed to respond to what you just said. Because the reality is what you're doing is you're massively distorting.
But
you're massively distorting the story, aren't you?
No, you are. I started telling you about Alexis J. You jumped in with your gotcha about Rotherham. Have you read the 20 recommendations of Alexis J's report? Can you tell your viewers what the 20 recommendations are?
It's not a gotcha.
How many times is Rotherham mentioned in the report? It is. Have you read the 468-page report?
Mehdi, when I went on your show recently, I let you ask me all sorts of questions because it was your show. Okay, I'm asking
and I let you answer them.
This isn't just about Elon Musk or the headlines. It's about a deeper issue. When powerful voices amplify sensitive topics, are they seeking justice or fueling division? From grooming gangs to the idea of Islamophobia, the truth is complex, uncomfortable, and often buried under layers of rhetoric. But one thing is clear: we need accountability on all sides.
You ever let me finish a sentence?
I have.
You ever let me finish a sentence?
You keep saying things which I want to challenge.
You
keep saying things I want to challenge.
Yes, so let me say them, and then you challenge them. So let me just say them, and I promise, I say them, and then you challenge me.
Let me ask you a question.
I say them really fast. I speak really fast. Let me just say them. Alexis J says no need for a new inquiry because her 20 recommendations,
I don't agree with her.
You don't know what they are, haven't been implemented yet.
I know.
But that's fine. I do agree with her. David Greenwood, who was this lawyer for the victims in Rotherham. You mentioned Rotherham as a gotcha, I think. David Greenwood, who was the lawyer in Rotherham of the girls. He was that's my opinion. I have a right to opinion. David Greenwood, the lawyer in Rotherham, of the dozens of girls, he's the guy who represented the girls in Rotherham. He says, I don't think we should have another inquiry. There's too many inquiries. We need action. We need to get the recommendations done. Another inquiry, he says, would be a distraction. Now, that's not a gotcha on my end either. Maybe we should have another action inquiry. I don't feel that strongly about it. I'm just telling you, Piers, for your viewers who are following Elon Musk's nonsense, a man who knows nothing about this stuff, that David Greenwood, a lawyer involved in this, and Alexis J, who did an inquiry in Rotherham and then did a national inquiry, says we shouldn't have another inquiry.
Yeah, and I'm making the point that in her national inquiry, she mentioned...
You and I are not experts.
I'm making the point in her national inquiry, she mentioned Rotherham once, and there, for me, is the problem. But the other problem...
And in her Rotherham inquiry, she covered it in detail.
Mehdi,
she also said, don't make a link between Pakistani men and this problem, because white men also are involved in grooming gangs.
This rape gang scandal in the 50 towns and villages involved in this rape gang scandal. Tell me this. You've just tried to suggest that more white men were doing it than British Pakistani men. Bit of a surprise.
The Home Office
bit of a surprise, I would think, to everyone you've just named.
That's the Home Office report.
Who've done the report. Okay, so how many white men involved in this rape gang scandal?
That's the Home Office research, Piers. Facts don't care about your feelings.
Hang on. How many white men have been taken to court, charged and/or convicted of raping these white girls in these 50 towns and villages? Just for the record.
Okay. All right, I don't have the full numbers, but let me give you some examples. In 2023 in Glasgow, there were 7 years of child sex crimes prosecuted. Piers, we don't have the percentages. That's the whole point.
We know that the very vast majority are actually British Pakistanis.
So hold on.
You're trying to deflect it into thinking it's somehow white men doing all this.
Oh, my God. So in Glasgow, there were white men. So 11 people abused 3 children, one of them in a nappy diaper.
I'm not talking about Glasgow.
You're not talking about that, nor is Elon Musk. In the West Midlands, a decade of child sex crimes. 21 white people abused 7 children, all of them...
As the debate rages on, one thing becomes clear. These issues aren't just political. They're deeply personal, affecting lives and communities in ways we can't ignore. From Musk's bold statements to the failures of institutions to protect the vulnerable, the spotlight is now on all of us. What we do next, how we think, and what we demand will shape the course of these discussions moving forward.
All of them under the age of 12.
Right.
In Cornwall, in 2010,
these
3
aren't
years
the
of sex
scandals
crime.
we're
You're not
talking
going to cut me off
about,
when I talk
Mehdi.
about sex crime. 6 men. Well, I'll get to that in a moment. 6 men abused 30 girls, the youngest of whom was 5 years old. And you've just made my point for me. These are the scandals we're not talking about. Why? Why are we defining child sex crimes and grooming gangs by race, unless you're a racist or trying to make political hay out of this? I care about the victims of all crimes. I don't give a damn whether the perpetrator was brown, black, white, blue, or yellow. I think we should support the victims of those crimes. And if you're only obsessed with the perpetrators, as Elon Musk is, as Robert Jenner is, then you don't actually care about these girls. That's what Alexis J said.
If you found this video thought-provoking, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that matter. Drop your thoughts in the comments.